Avengers! Assemble.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it. I hate this channel.
Hey there, I'm Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and today I'm taking a break from my wrestling and various upcoming Batman reviews. You'll see what I mean in a few months, and also a few years, to talk to you about Avengers Endgame. Now first things first, this is a scene-by-scene review, so if you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers. Like, a lot of them. We're covering the whole movie. Go see it. I'll wait. Actually, on second thought, I won't. If you haven't seen any other Marvel movies leading up to this movie, you also probably shouldn't be why would you even click it? Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? I mean, technically speaking, I probably shouldn't even be reviewing this, as I haven't reviewed any other movies in the MCU. But I intend to, so, you know, that's gotta count for something, right? With that being said, let me stop talking about the movie and start talking about the movie. Despite the last movie ending on a somewhat depressing and somber note,
let's go! Snap your fingers, but do you still? You can do it all by yourself. Let me see you do it. Hey!
With Hawkeye teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow and arrow at a family picnic. I mean, you're lucky. My dad only taught me how to play baseball, and he did that by throwing a ball at my face, so I, and I quote here, wouldn't be afraid of it anymore. I stopped playing ball shortly after. I don't know if there's a correlation between those two. And then Hawkeye's entire family just up and disappears. Tough break, man. I mean, she left and took the kids just like that? Well, actually, no. They too were destroyed when Thanos snapped his fingers and annihilated half the Earth. Again, if you didn't watch the movies that came before this, you probably shouldn't, but you're gonna be confused. You're gonna be really, really confused. Elsewhere, trapped in space from the last movie, Iron Man and Nebula are playing whatever that game that kids used to play when there was a substitute teacher and before smartphones were a thing. And moments like this is why I love the MCU so much, because small, seemingly meaningless filler or otherwise throwaway scenes highlight the characters' personalities and accentuate their characters. While Tony's playing to pass time, Nebula is very obviously heavily invested in this meaningless game because she's obsessed with winning and loathes the idea of loss, due to her strict upbringing at the hands of Thanos. But real quick side note, is now really a good time to be doing that, Tony? We're like 22 days away from half the people you know and love turning to dust, and you're out here playing paper football? You know, maybe now's the time to come up with a plan. Or, you know, at least 12% of a plan. Following this, Tony works on his vlog through the Iron Man helmet. I didn't know that that had recording capabilities. I mean, maybe I wasn't paying attention in a past movie. There's 22 of them, so, you know, give me a break. Or maybe it's an update, but regardless, I was unaware. He delivers a message to Pepper Potts, updating her, and by extension, us, the audience, on his situation. And damn, dude, you look seriously malnourished. You look like Christian Bale in The Mechanic or whatever the hell that movie was. But luckily, Captain Marvel shows up to save the day. And that might be the one time anyone's ever been happy to see Brie Larson, including the other Avengers.
Brie, what was it like joining this group, this universe?
I love that. Just go to the next one.
She delivers the ship back down to Earth, where Pepper Potts, Captain America, and company are awaiting.
Lost the kid.
Tony, we lost.
The remaining Avengers update Tony on Thanos' victory and their failures as a team, which I imagine is kinda what the producer meeting must have looked like after Age of Ultron. Shade.
He's pissed. He thinks he failed, which of course he did, but you know, there's a lot of that going around, ain't there?
Into this exact second, I thought you were Build-A-Bear.
Maybe I am.
Tony looks to get a head start on the plot and their attempts at recreating almost every movie that's come before it in the franchise, by recreating Civil War and fighting with Captain America. And hey, look, it kinda ends the same way that Civil War ended. Captain Marvel sets off to kill Thanos, but is stopped by the remaining conscious Avengers, who remind her that this isn't a sequel to her standalone outing, but a team-up film.
I like this one.
Really? You sure about that, Thor? Because you seem to have a very different sentiment in interviews leading up to this movie.
Should we have a fight?
And she can eat bacon
I feel like we're
nobody's
fighting right
business.
now.
Let's go get this son of a bitch.
And whoa, Cap! Language? The new team heads to Thanos' retirement gardens where he lives a simple life for a supposed god. And it's important to note that the amazing Bulk here is still scarred from his usage of the gauntlet in the previous movie. The team attacks him only to find out that he's already destroyed the stones by using the other stones. And wait, no, pause, hold up. Thanos, how would that even work? You'd still have one stone left over regardless. What? Unfortunately, he doesn't live long enough to answer that question because Thor fucking beheads him. Jesus Christ, Hercules! Was that really necessary? We're not even 20 minutes into the movie yet. Now who are we gonna fight throughout it? But I guess the guy did have it coming. He just kind of gave away his weakness to you, didn't he? Fast forward to a mere 5 years later, and Captain America is attending a meeting for those affected after the events of the snap. And this is where we get Marvel's first openly gay character. This guy. Whoever he is. Neat. Look, I'm not gonna cry or shout that Marvel needs better representation because, well, because I'm not Brie Larson. But what I will say is making a random no-name guy gay isn't exactly going to please the representation board. I mean, you want to impress people? Bring in anal. What? Oh no, I'm sorry, anal. Anol? I don't know, I'm probably still not saying the name right. Or bring in Iceman. Or North Star. Or Richter. Or Grey Malk. Or Bling. Or Mystique. Wait, why are these all X-Men? My point is, either do it or don't do it. During this meeting, Captain America remembers Peggy Carter. And of course he does. I mean, I think we all should. It's a very underrated series. Ant-Man Elsewhere is finally brought out of the quantum realm due to a rat flipping the switch. If you didn't watch the end of Ant-Man, this probably makes little to no sense whatsoever for you. He soon discovers the truth upon finding a memorial site dedicated to the millions lost to Thanos. Upon looking for his family's names, he finds his own and rushes home to find his daughter aged 5 years. The Avengers Elsewhere have a virtual reality meeting for the sake of cameo appearances and world building. Now there's a haircut that says, "I'd like to speak to your manager and you will be losing your job." You know what I love about this new look for Captain Marvel is that she looks exactly the way everybody feels about her. And when everyone else is dismissed, War Machine stays and explains that Hawkeye has been ruthlessly killing and taking out criminals in Mexico. Which is good, because these movies are finally doing something with Hawkeye. It only took like what, 9-10 years? Good on you guys. Not a moment too late. Just then Captain America shows up. Probably because Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans are contractually obligated to appear together in every movie they've ever made. There's a lot. They cross over a lot. They're in each other's movies. And that's when Ant-Man shows up at the Avengers doors. They let the B-team player inside where he explains that time works differently in the quantum realm. And he was only there for what amounted to 5 hours. And is that why Paul Rudd doesn't age? He just spends all his time in the quantum realm? And with that knowledge, they decide to make a time machine. Elsewhere, Tony is camping with his daughter. That's right. Tony's now a dad. When Captain Crunch, Insect Dude, and Spider Lady bring the DeLorean project up to Tony, who denies the possibility of the telephone booth from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Black Widow brings up that the stones still exist in the past and they can grab them and get them back. Tony, being the family man he is, doesn't want to risk going back in time and saving the universe out of fear of failure and making the world worse. And probably somehow accidentally making it so that his daughter no longer exists. It's a pretty reasonable fear. Considering the butterfly effect. The actual effect, not those shitty movies. Realizing they can't get Tony on board, they instead try to bring in the other smartest guy they know, who just so happens to be a hipster jolly green giant. It turns out that Bruce, after his loss, stopped running from the Hulk and stopped seeing him as a disease and saw him more as a cure. So he learned to center himself. Not sexually, and bring the man and beast together. So now, he has the strength of your least favorite high school bully, and the brain of the nerd he shoves into the lockers. A bunch of kids approach him, asking to take a selfie, but they neglect a selfie with Ant-Man, which is bullshit, because who doesn't want to take a picture with Paul Rudd? Paul, hit me up. Return my calls. I'll take the picture with you, just drop the restraining order. That's all I'm saying. They ask Bruce for his help, but he initially declines, stating that it's out of his area of expertise. One sentence later, and he's in. Because we have 3 whole hours here, so some things just need to be sped up. Not worth the extra 20 minutes of C or D plot. Back at Tony's place, he's apparently given the matter more thought than he let on. And after doing some tests, he discovers that Ant-Man's plan has legs. As well it should. He's an ant, they have several. In the meantime, his daughter overhears and extorts her father for juice pops and the promise of a bedtime story. One she never gets. Professor Hulk, Black Widow, Captain America, and Ant-Man put time travel to the test, with some varying results. Tony shows up fashionably late as always, with the time GPS, his words, not mine, wouldn't say something that stupid, and Steve Rogers' shield. And not long after his arrival, Nebula, Rocket Raccoon, and Rhodey make their entrances. They head off to meet Thor, who has noticeably, got a little fat. A little bit of a gut.
This fat son of a bitch, he's fat!
He's a shell of the man he once was. He took the defeat to Thanos to heart and blamed himself, basically becoming a complete recluse who spends all his days with his two roommates, who you might recognize, who play Fortnite all day. Topical. In Japan, Hawkeye, with the heart of a Ronin, slays some big-time criminals, obviously setting up his trailer shots. It's there he's confronted by his longtime friend Natasha, who gives him the hope he's been missing and recruits him to the team. He's also got some sick tattoos since last time we seen him. Oh, that's sick! Sick! Machine Gun Kelly designed that for you? When the team's finally together, they get into a spirited debate about how time travel works, before deciding that Hawkeye will test it out. Hawkeye gets sent back in time real quick, it works, that's all you need to know. When he gets back, they begin to strategically plan how they're gonna get each stone. 6 stones, 3 teams, 1 shot. The team puts on their Ant-Man suits and travels through time, heading back into New York 2012, where we see the Avengers team up for the very first time. They try to keep a low profile as Hulk searches for Strange, not sexual, Doctor Strange, but is instead met by the Ancient One, who informs him that he's 5 years too early. He attempts to take the Infinity Stone from her, but she special effects him out of his own body. Elsewhere, in Asgard 2013, Thor and Rocket head to Asgard 2013, where Thor realizes that today is the day his mother passes, and this causes the Big Lebowski to have a mini panic attack that is slapped out of him by a raccoon.
Of it.
The pep talk doesn't help as much as previously thought, as Thor sneaks off. In Morag, I don't care, I'm a moron. So, in Morag 2014, Hawkeye, Black Widow, War Machine, and Nebula split up to search for 2 separate stones. Nebula warns War Machine that they're not alone in the search for the stones, as the past versions of her sister Gamora, and their surrogate father Thanos are looking for them as well. Shortly after, we see that Thanos has already gathered one of the stones himself. Past Nebula is overcome with a headache, and then accidentally projects the scene that we've just seen, with Nebula warning War Machine. In New York, Tony watches from the shadows as the Avengers initially defeat Loki from the first movie. The stone is taken by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, who would later go on to be revealed as Hydra agents infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. in The Winter Soldier. Ant-Man, being the size of an atom, hops on the briefcase where the stone is being held. The Hydra agents head down an elevator shaft where Captain America joins them, and for a moment, it seems like we're gonna see that fight scene from The Winter Soldier all over again. But instead, he calms their nerves and takes their stone with a reassuring Hail Hydra. A clear nod to a moment that was universally hated by all comic book readers. And just people with good taste in general. Meanwhile, Ant-Man slides into Tony's chess piece as Robert Redford makes a return, even though now he's allegedly retired, but okay. And you may know him better as the bad guy from Civil War, and every other movie that he's ever been in. The Avengers and alleged S.H.I.E.L.D. agents argue as to who will be taking Loki and the briefcase containing the stone, when Ant-Man pulls out a piece in Tony's chess piece, causing mild cardiac dystrophy. And moreover, causing a distraction as past Tony drops to the floor. Present-day Iron Man grabs the briefcase and heads out, but an angry past Hulk pushes him out of the way, as he makes his way to the lower level of the building. Loki then grabs the Tesseract and creates a portal, leading him elsewhere. Past Cap meets current Cap, and by Time Corp rules, this isn't good. The two Marvels trade blows and fall stories down, causing present-day Cap to drop his picture of Peggy that he apparently carries around. Past Cap sees this and flips out as if he was just told their mothers have the same name. Which I guess in hindsight they would because they're the same person, so of course they do. Present-day Cap reveals Bucky's still alive, which shocks his past self and allows his present-day self to get hidden before stabbing his former self with Loki's scepter. Man, time travel's confusing! Elsewhere, Bruce is still entirely incorporeal, and begging the Ancient One to allow him to use the Time Stone. But the Ancient One won't allow this because without the stones to fight the forces of darkness, their timeline would be lost to it, and millions of people would suffer. But Professor Hulk explains that once they're done using the stones, they'd be able to return it to the timeline the moment after it was taken. When Hulk tells her that Strange willingly gave the stone to Thanos, the Sorcerer Supreme hands the stone over to Hulk, stating that she either made a mistake in trusting Strange, or he did what he did for good reason. Back on whatever planet I mentioned before, Thanos powers Nebula down, and does some diagnostics tests, in which it's revealed both Nebulas share the same network and memory bank, making past Thanos aware of what's to come. Thanos searches her memories for information on the stones, bringing him up to date with the plot. Back on Asgard, Thor's sneaking up on his mother when she notices him and can immediately tell his presence is from the future. She gives him some motherly advice, telling him that he's like everybody else and the measure of a person is how well they succeed at being who they are, not who they're meant to be. And what does that mean? I feel like I'm at the end of The Dark Knight again.
Because he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now.
It sounds really cool, but if you think about it, what? Stock footage of Natalie Portman wakes up as Rocket ambushes her to take her stone, before running back to Thor, who now feels revitalized as he calls for Mjolnir. Mjolnir. His hammer. He calls for his hammer, it comes to him. That's what you need to know. Back on that other planet, past Peter Quill is giving risky business Tom Cruise a run for his money in the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy. Nebula puts an end to that and knocks him out, stealing his space screwdriver, or whatever the hell that is, to grab the stone, handing it over to Rhodey. War Machine takes off with Nebula failing to do so as Thanos messes with her network, right before abducting her. Back in New York 2012, Ant-Man is yelling at Iron Man for dropping the ball, or more accurately, the stone. But Tony devises a new plan as they head to Jersey in 1970 for an old school Stan Lee cameo. Oh man, if only we could all hop in that time machine and head back to a time where Stan Lee was still alive and kicking. I would do it immediately, no questions asked.
Enough said.
Tony manages to get to the army base, take the stone, and find his father? Somewhere in between his appearance in the first Avenger and Iron Man 2. I like that they got the same actor from Iron Man 2 and on to come back and basically attempt to give him the appearance of the other actor from the first Avenger and Peggy Carter. It's a nice touch for continuity. It's a nice touch. And it's also nice to see these two share the screen together. I mean, they had in that one flashback scene that was actually a projection, but this much more satisfying. Captain America makes a prank call to a young Michael Douglas, aka Hank Pym, and man, those are some good effects. That's... pat yourself on the back, convincing him to leave his office. The captain is able to get the stone. I just want to add a slight correction here. I said they went back to get 2 stones, and I don't know why I said that. I'm guessing it was a long night when I was originally recording this. I mean, after all, at this point in time, this has taken me 6 full days to make. They actually went back in time to get the stone that they lost to Loki, and also Hank Pym's quantum fluids. Not sexually. The particles that allow them to travel through time. That's why they went back. But finds that his and Tony's presence has caused a security breach from alienating that woman from Community in the elevator. Oh, man, that's relatable. Gave somebody the wrong impression in the elevator, and all of a sudden, the cops are after. I think we've all been there. I'm not the only one, right? Cap sneaks off to a room, only to find out that it's Peggy Carter's office, and she still has pictures of him on her desk. And somehow, during this scene, she doesn't see him? Alright. Movie logic, I guess. Tony and his dad continue their talk where they discuss fatherhood. Past Nebula beats down her future self as Gamora watches, and now plans on taking her place, by adapting to look more like her future counterpart. Oh, and talk about beating yourself up.
Move this man!
Cut to Hawkeye and Black Widow, and oh, hey! Yeah, that's right, these guys are still in the movie. They head to grab the Soul Stone, which is being hoarded by the Red Skull. Red Skull informs them that they can only grab the Soul Stone. God, you know what, that's so hard, I'm just gonna say SS. Red Skull informs them that they can only grab the SS, and hey, now that I think about it, that's not the only time Red Skull's been associated with the SS. You see what I did there? Cause he's Nazi. Like and subscribe. Red Skull informs them that they would only be able to get the stone should one of them sacrifice what they love the most. Each one volunteers their own life, and both even attempt to jump continually, but they proceed to stop each other and fight each other off. Ultimately, it's Natasha that makes the sacrifice, dying for the chance to save billions, and breaking the hearts of her comrades and best friends when they return to whence they came. After some teary-eyed performances, Tony begins to construct his own Infinity Gauntlet. The Avengers then try to figure out who will be the one to snap their fingers, and right many wrongs. However, as the original Gauntlet nearly killed Thanos upon its first use, they all realize they're in grave danger should they choose to use it. Thor suggests it should be him due to his strength, but Tony tells him that he's in no condition to do so, whereas Hulk offers up his services because he might be able to survive. Though when it comes time to do so, simply wearing the glove pains Hulk, and when he finally snaps his fingers, it burns up half his arm and neck. Clint gets a call on his phone from his wife, solidifying that things did in fact work. But unfortunately, past Nebula, having taken the place of her present-day counterpart, opens up a gateway allowing past Thanos to make his way to present time, at their present location, and he blows that whole building to smithereens. The Avengers surprisingly survive this attack, and how? How did they all survive? He 9/11'd your building, it's done! You're gone, that's it! As stated, they survive despite leaving the Avengers building in ruins. Thanos sits down and commands Nebula to find the stones and return them to him. Back on the ship, Gamora offers a hand to present-day Nebula, as they decide to stop Thanos together.
So here I am with a very special person, my sister.
Oh my god! Is this like on Instagram?
It is. People think that we hate each other and
but
shit.
We don't.
We don't. We're so
At
close.
all.
Look.
We're super close.
We look like twins.
Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor meet up and find Thanos sitting and waiting, very nonchalant about this whole ordeal.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Thanos exclaims they destroyed half the universe in an attempt to allow the other half to thrive, but he can see now that that's not the case. So now this time around, when he gets the gauntlet, he will shred the universe down to its very last atom and create a universe from scratch. A fight ensues and the three main Avengers struggle against the big bad. Hawkeye finds the gauntlet with all of the stones still intact. Unfortunately, he also finds a lot of trouble. He runs into past Nebula, who is able to convince him to hand over the gauntlet, but she's immediately stopped by Gamora and present-day Nebula. They try to talk past Nebula out of her actions, but she declares Thanos won't let her change. And when she attempts to turn the gun on Gamora, present-day Nebula instinctively kills her. Because as discussed, this isn't Back to the Future logic, so present-day Nebula still lives, she's good. It's fine. I'm not gonna act like I fully understand it. Meanwhile, somewhere out there in the rubble, War Machine, Hulk, and Rocket Raccoon are in the midst of drowning to death when Ant-Man rushes to the rescue. And yeah, good luck with that, cause last time I checked, ants don't do too well in water. The three-man power trip desperately try to take Thanos down, and while each of them hold their own, he proves to be far too powerful even without the gauntlet. And just as the semi-god overpowers the god of thunder, Thor's hammer rises up, though not at Thor's command, but at Captain America's, causing Thor to proclaim he knew it. The Captain does a good job at wielding the weapon and the shield back to back, beating Thanos down in a way that hasn't been seen before. But Thanos takes a beating and keeps on defeating, knocking Captain America back down, and then giving his villain monologue, because that's what they do.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing! I can't believe it.
Thanos' army begins to follow behind him. Where they were this entire time is anybody's guess, but here they are now. The Captain rises up and attempts to continue his battle when the reinforcements arrive. Black Panther and his whole entourage, Falcon, Drax, Doctor Strange, Mantis, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Bucky, Groot, Scarlet Witch, the wizards and sorcerers from Doctor Strange, Wasp, and even Pepper Potts in an Iron Man suit. Everybody.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
Everyone!
This is like the scene from Spy Kids 3D. Except it doesn't suck. Ant-Man grows to huge proportions with War Machine, Rocket, and Hulk in tow. And with all these beloved characters joining the battle, what ensues is one of the greatest and most badass fight scenes in cinematic history. Here you see characters built up for movies spanning a decade back, characters people all know and love going to war. I'm not gonna be able to give a great critique of this other than to say that this is awesome. For obvious reasons, this is just awesome. You can't dispute it. It's not even opinion-based at this point, it's factual. And Spider-Man even finally gets that hug. And Star-Lord gets kicked in the balls because this is pre-Guardians Gamora, so worth it, I guess. There's so much things to comment on, I'm gonna try to give you the Spark Note edition, but so here it goes. The Asgardians head into the war. Scarlet Witch takes on Thanos directly, looking to avenge her Red Dead robot boyfriend. Dude, just buy a vibrator, it's basically the same thing. While the rest of the Avengers play hot potato with the gauntlet. This is so much action, I can't even keep up with everything going on. I mean, the entire last act of this movie is just one giant battle. This is like that movie Food Fight. Except it doesn't suck. Thanos' ship starts firing down, but it's quickly taken out by a returning Captain Marvel, who's in this movie for a lot less time than I expected, but I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining with that one. Hawkeye passes the gauntlet to Black Panther. Panther passes it to Spider-Kid, who then gives it over to Captain Marvel. And you remember when Marvel said that the next phase following this will focus primarily on the women of the MCU? There will be more women than men. They will be a focal point. Well, apparently that came early. And the award for the least subtle and completely pandering moment in a film goes to... And you know what, I don't entirely dislike this, but it's just a little bit too ham-fisted here for my liking. It's just a little bit tacky here. And guys, I know, I'm sure a couple of you guys in the comments are gonna tell me that I'm sexist and I hate women and blah blah blah, but just, you know, it's kind of dopey to me. But to be fair, at least they're not a bunch of Mary Sues. Most of these characters, and mind you, I said most, not you, are really well written, so this isn't all bad. Ant-Man and the Wasp hotwired their Quantum Leap van in an attempt to send Thanos and company back where they came from. And you know, some people would just suggest building a wall. It's a joke, relax. But he very quickly nips that in the bud. And much to my shock, Thanos actually manages to put the gauntlet back on. Captain Marvel does a good job of fighting him off, but he removes one of the stones to take her out of the equation. Tony rushes at Ivan Goop's mean older brother, who knocks him off and snaps his fingers, only to find Tony snatched all the stones and is now wearing them in his custom-made gauntlet. He gives a sobering look, knowing what's to come, but still confidently says that one line that we will always remember from the first Iron Man movie.
I am Iron Man.
For once, we see fear in Thanos' eyes as Tony snaps his fingers, wiping out Thanos and all those who fought at his side. The snap, while taking out all those who opposed him, unfortunately also similarly cost him his own life. Rhodey, Pepper, and Peter share their final moments with Tony as he passes on. And guys, I'm not, and you know what? I'm not crying. You guys are fucking going, fuck you. Everyone, pretty much except Tony and Black Widow, have a happy ending. Hawkeye returns home to his kids. Peter returns to school where he finds his best friend Ned Leeds. And man, that's gotta be a weird conversation because we're 5 years in the future. So you're 5 years behind the grade that you were supposed to be just because you died and then came back. That's kind of gotta suck. Black Panther returns to his kingdom. Ant-Man returns to his family. And everyone, and I mean everyone, attends Tony's funeral. Even that kid from Iron Man 3, that's him. That's him right there. Everybody. Everyone! Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch share a moment together, mourning over their past loved ones. Thor passes his duties off to this chick and joins the Guardians of the Galaxy. Captain America goes back in time to deliver all the stones to their rightful owners, and he even brings Thor's hammer with him. I thought it was just a one-time thing, but alright, that's his now, I guess. But when he leaves, they're unable to get him to return, and they can't figure out why. But only moments later, they see him sitting not too far off in the distance, as a much older man. Cap went back in time and stayed there this time around to live a life with Peggy. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to just tag on at the end of the movie, but a fitting end. Did you want all of our money or did you want all of our tears, Marvel? Because you got both. You got both. Cap passes the torch to Falcon, making him the next Captain America. Though, I wish they would have done a better job building to this because it kind of seemed like they were tailoring that role for Bucky with the amount of screen time and presence he had. Whereas Falcon just kept getting pushed to the sidelines. So, could have done that better, but I like Anthony Mackie, so I think it's going to be okay. And that was Avengers Endgame. And what an incredible way to wrap up a decade of storytelling, sending off characters that comic book fans and casual fans alike have since fallen in love with. In one movie, they successfully sent off Black Widow, Iron Man, and Captain America, while still solidifying a future for the next phase of their movies. Well done. Seriously, guys, good job. I have nothing but praise for this movie, and I can't imagine anyone feeling any differently. This had everything you can ask for in a comic book movie. Great action, fantastic storytelling, a shitload of plot twists that actually make sense, thankfully, and a hell of a climax. I mean, I damn near climaxed. But that's because I exclusively get off to very emotional moments. I mean, you should have seen me when my father first told me he loved me. Guys, I'm kidding, of course. My father has never told me that. My point is, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, go see it. It managed to not only be worth its 3-hour runtime with no pee breaks, but it does a great job of wrapping plots from 21 other movies up and making each of those movies, even some of the lesser films, feel that much more important, as if they were all stepping stones leading up to this exact moment in time. I mean, the only real question I have is if they set up the idea that by changing the past they won't change the future, how is it possible that Captain America is an old man in the current timeline? Because theoretically speaking, if he went back in time and lived life with Peggy, which, perfect ending for his character, if he did so, wouldn't that just open up a brand new timeline? See, because here's the thing, I could buy that you could travel through time, okay? I could buy that. My suspension of disbelief, okay, will allow that, alright? But I'm having a real hard time trying to figure out how you could jump back in time, create a new timeline, and then somehow jump back into another timeline when the time is right. Quite frankly, I don't even have the time for this kind of train of thought.
I'm the Clown Prince of Crime, and that was the Prince of Personality, the Infuso. Or so he says. So if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the man on Twitter, because it's not stalking if it's on the internet after all. Join the fun by joining the Discord. If for some strange reason you want to show support, and I don't know why you would, and if you have $1 to spare, head over to the SIJW's Patreon, where you can request videos, get exclusive content, and early access to scheduled videos. Or head to his PayPal, where you can buy the shirts. Oh, aren't those lovely? And just remember, if you're not tuning in, you're missing out. Yeah. Ah!